everybody, Gina DeLuca here. Okay, today I'm going to be doing a monochromatic cloud pour, going for those very 3D boulder cells with a little bit of gold added. Oh, let me grab that too. So the colors we are working with today, my base coat slash background color is a blend of Amsterdam in turquoise green, phthalo blue, and a bit of Liquitex Basics phthalo green. These colors here is a mix of the DecoArt Americana Decor Satin Enamels in pure white mixed with this background color. So this color is 50% satin enamel and 50% this paint. This one is a mix of the satin enamel, and then I've just added a bit more white to each of these colors. But basically 50% satin enamel and 50% whatever other paint you're going to be using. And this is the Artist Loft Old Gold. I didn't want to use the 24 karat gold because I just want that gold to be more of an accent. If I use the 24 karat gold, it would give me cells. I don't want gold cells, I just want gold accents. I do have a bit of the creeping crud, so pardon my congestion. These paints have been mixed. 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol, and then thinned with some water until I get the consistency that I'm looking for, which is about a 2 on my consistency scale. It is making a mound, but it's disappearing quickly, and it is making a nice thin, even stream off of my stick. If it gets thick and then thin and thick and thin, then you have not mixed it enough. That means that your consistency is inconsistent in your cup, so you need to keep mixing. Before we get started, have you seen the Fluid Art inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute, but if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards, and each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube that gives you all of the information that you need, the exact paint brand, color, consistency, the recipe, and of course the technique, all of the things that I cannot fit onto a card. This is the picture of the painting in that video. This box contains a tip for this particular technique, and here at the bottom you have the color palette that was used in this painting. And then these 2 boxes can be used together as the basis of a 2-color palette, or you can build off of those colors. And there are 8 bonus color palette cards. Each one has 5 color palettes. You can use all of the colors or just some of the colors. Mix and match the bonus color palette cards with the technique cards, and you have more combinations than you could ever paint in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also at amazon.com. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is pour some paint in my cup. I'm doing about 2 ounces. Always remember to check your consistency before pouring into your cup, as it may change. The sauce may thicken upon standing. All right. The reason we lay down a base coat is because we want our paints to slide around easily on our canvas and evenly. That is also important. If you do not lay down a base coat, the first thing that's going to stick to your canvas is going to be your poured puddle. Sometimes the coolest stuff that happens on your canvas is at the edge of your puddle. And if you don't have a base coat down, what happens is the paint in the center of your puddle will roll over top of the edge of your puddle, because the edge is going to be the first part that's sticking to it. And so you don't get to keep as much of your composition. Laying down a base coat gives you the option of negative space. If you are using silicone, having a base coat will help to prevent bald spots on your canvas. If the silicone hits your canvas first, you can wind up with spots on your canvas where the paint won't stick. That's no fun. So these round canvases, the edges are puckered. So I find using my finger to put the base coat on the edges to be kind of the most efficient and accurate way to get it on there. But you definitely don't want to skip this step. If the sides of your canvas are dry, then when your paint is rolling over the sides, it may actually resist that part, and so your cells may not stretch over the edge evenly. I like to troubleshoot before there's trouble. It's a blessing and a curse. Okay, that looks evenly covered. Hello, Bigsby. Hello. Usually it's Satchmo who's paying a visit during the videos, but today it's Bigsby. Going to pop some of these bubbles. Pull out old Bernie 2 times. He never likes the first time. Thus the name Bernie 2 times. You get a lot of bubbles in your base coat. It's good to pop them so that they don't come up through your pour. Also, the reason why I use the same color for my background as I do for my base coat, because if I do get those bubbles popping up, at least it's part of my painting. If I didn't have any white in this painting, which I really don't, and I was using a white base coat and I got those little tiny white pin cells in my painting, that would make me unhappy. Okay. Going to put some paint in the cup. Checking my consistency beforehand. Going to pour from up high. I want these paints to sink and churn and blend. That's going to give me that very cool boulder cell action, that very 3D effect that I get, which I find endlessly fascinating. Colors going in from darkest to lightest, and then the gold will be last. Typically, when I'm doing these pours, whatever the last paint that goes in my cup, tiny bit of that ends up at the bottom of my cup, and that means it ends up in the center of my painting, so it becomes part of the focal point. So I'm always mindful about the order in which my paints go in. If I have a light background, I usually do the darkest color last, and if I have a dark background, I do the lightest color last. In this case, I'm doing gold because it is the highest contrast, and I want it in the center. Okay, again from up high. If you are uncomfortable pouring from up high, you can practice in your sink with water to get used to the motion. I don't know if that made it all the way to the bottom. Guess we shall see. I'm going to take some of what is left in this cup and just go over top to give all of these paints a chance to react. These satin enamel paints are matte. Matte paints have a hydrophobic effect when they are used with a glossier paint, and the Amsterdam and Basics are a glossier paint. So I'm going to pour quickly, spin slowly, in a clockwise motion. And I'm going to try to stay in the center the best that I can. If I spin too quickly, it will just look like a ring pour. And that is not the look that I'm going for. I really want this to have a spiral. So the fewer spins I do, the more of a spiral effect it's going to have. As I get towards the end of the cup, I will get closer to the center of the canvas. Get closer to the canvas. Hopefully I'm in the center. So as I get towards the end of the cup, I get closer to the canvas and I'm spinning much slower. It's coming out slower, so I'm spinning slower. Getting closer to the canvas gives me more control. Waiting to see if there's any of that gold. I think I see a little bit of gold there. Once I get to the end of my cup, when I get to that last color that I put in, I try to get 1.5 spins in. That is the Fibonacci sequence there, 1 to 1.5, so. Almost there. And I stuck my finger in it. Well done, Gina. Okay, well. Some days, you know, you're not feeling well, just not 100% on your game. It's all right. It's okay. I'm not going to sweat it. I'm going to pop these bubbles. And I am going to allow this paint puddle to percolate. Let these cells come up. As this sits, cells will come up. The bubbles pop. The bubbles come up from the paint layers underneath and they bring some paint with it. And as this sits and those cells come up, when I stretch them later, they will have a 3D effect, hopefully. And that was a really nice spiral until I stuck my finger in it. Some of y'all may or may not know, I have no depth perception. I am legally blind in one eye. So I am prone to walking into things and sticking my fingers in my paintings on occasion. And things of that nature. Now this canvas is leveled to the table, not to the spinner. The spinner is not level. So I will keep it moving so that it does not pull to one side. And then once this is stretched out, I'll take it off of the spinner and allow it to dry in its leveled position. Hopefully by the time this all gets stretched out, you know, that little flub there won't really be that noticeable. We'll see. Gonna keep popping these bubbles. Patience is your friend if you want boulder cells. The first painting that I got boulder cells, before they were called boulder cells, when they were first discovered, as far as I know, at least discovered by me, my torch stopped working, and so the puddle sat there for like 10 minutes before I came back, while I figured out what was going on with my torch. And when I came back, there were all these cells that had popped up. And then when I stretched it out, those were the boulder cells. So the first, that was video number 16. Video 15 is the first, basically the first straight pour, where I had accidentally mixed my paints too thinly. And I was actually kind of hoping for more of a gradient effect. But what I got were a bunch of cells, and that was the beginning of the journey of learning that thinner paints create instability, which gives you more cells. Thicker paints create stability. So if you're doing a ring pour, you want thicker. If you don't want cells in your ring pour, I do not torch my paintings with satin enamels after I've stretched them. I only torch them before I stretch. The only time I've ever really ended up with cracking with satin enamels was when I torched it after it was stretched, or if it sat like under a fan or something like that and it dried too quickly. That's it. And you run that risk with any kind of paint, not just satin enamels. If it dries too quickly, you can get those cracks in there. Crazy. So I know a lot of people probably fast forward through this part of their paintings, but I feel it is important for you to see how long I actually let this sit. Watching it develop. This is where the patience comes in. It's important. Okay, I think I have enough cells to work with here. All of this stuff on the edges is kind of going to get pulled off, and then the center is going to become the focal point. And I think we're ready to give this a twirl. Oh, jeez. Am I going to have a paper issue today? All right, let's give this a spin. And remember that you don't have to spin this fast. It doesn't have to be fast. If you've ever had a painting that wasn't level, you know how much it can change overnight. It will get there. There's no reason for the paint to be flinging all over the place. You'll see my drip line is barely outside of the edge of the canvas. There is no reason for this to end up on your walls. It will get there. Even if you spin it slowly, it's already covered. But there's still a lot of paint on here. So I'm going to keep spinning it, and that's going to keep stretching it. And that is going to make those boulder cells look even more 3D. I will never get tired of this technique. I hope y'all don't, because it is endlessly fascinating to me. All right, let's take an assessment here. How are we sitting? Kind of want to move that center a little bit because it feels slightly off center. That feels better. So the gold, can't really see a whole lot of it right now, but I do see little flecks of it. Got kind of blended in some of these cells, but right at the end, right in the center, I see a little more of it. And it kind of gives it a glowy effect. Do I want to stretch more? I think I'm going to stretch a little bit more. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to leave it like this. Have some very cool layered cells going on these edges here. And then some very 3D looking cells towards the center. All right, I'm going to take this off of the spinner, sit it in its level position, and then I will bring you in for a close-up. Back in a few. Okay, so here it is. Some wonderful blended boulder cells, super cool 3D action going on. Some really cool layers, kind of like oyster shell type layering in some of those cells. You can see some of the gold in the center. The gold's kind of hard to see. I think it'll be more evident once it's dry because it'll be up against all of those other matte paints. But there it is. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Please do like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Do check out the description box below for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. My affiliate links, DecoArt being one of them. If you use the link provided, there's also coupon codes. If you use the link provided or the coupon codes, I receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. Also in the description box, you will find the link to our Facebook group, Go Make Some Art. Join us there, post your masterpieces, ask your questions, get some inspiration. A good time is had by most. It is the internet after all. You'll also find the link to my website, GinaDeLuca.net, where you can find my art and music and the fluid art inspiration cards for sale. All right. Well, I think that's it for me for today. Oh, if you are subscribed and you are not receiving notifications when I put up new content, please do click that bell so that you receive notifications. YouTube changed some things, so go to your favorite creators and click the bell to make sure that you're receiving all of the notifications. All right, that's it for me for today. I hope you have a beautiful day. Go make some art.